more important that needs to be discussed. When you talk about, we tried to bring everything together in this show from the mouths of people around the country, and we talked about the pedophilia that's rampant in our country, and this was regarding a police officer named Jim Rothstein who investigated this from the 70s. Then we talked about the DHS services now hijacking children, as well as raids on ministries like Tony Alamo's, where people aren't allowed to spread the word of God and live in a Bible community. They're forced into a state type of life that you're seeing right before your very eyes. Now, where does this really come from? When we try to trace back, you know, we talked about how the Vatican really is a big onion, and how the layer goes layer after layer, and they have their front organizations, and they use a Hegelian dialectic approach to how they control countries. They use their concordats all over the world now, which number at least 172 to gain political influence and political favors. You see it here in our country, and I've given you examples of that. Then you see these esoteric secret societies that they have created, and you can go right to Bible verses, and I'm going to paraphrase a few, where Christ immediately comes out and says that everything in his church is open. We're all Christians with open books. The book of the Bible is open for you to read. Christ's words were never hidden. There was no hidden agenda. And so when you find a group like the Vatican and a group like our government who have these hidden agendas, you begin to then peel off the layers of the onion. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time this morning going into each esoteric society, each group like Skull and Bones, like Opus Dei, all of the Freemasons, Mormonism, all these groups that have been formed as front organizations for the beast. I don't have time for that. We've done it over the years in most every topic that I've mentioned. But I wanted to mention this, that where does this all come from? What is the secret? There's so many different secrets, but what is the great secret of the Freemasons? And if you look at Freemasonry at the top levels, it is so connected to the Jesuits. It was first the Jesuits then using Freemasonry at the high levels. And we have groups of Freemasons who have no idea what their hierarchy is doing. But when you look at the top levels, and you look at the grand secret of these high-level Masons, and you find that they come from many different walks of life, but when you get up into these high degrees, where you're finding that some people are coming from the Church of Satan, and then when you're in the Church of Satan, you can't get to a certain level unless you're a Catholic priest, so you're made a Catholic priest by another bishop who's then given these occult powers that supposedly have carried on throughout the ages. And the real goal is to reach this kind of Luciferian immortality, as that's what they promise you at the higher levels. This immortality where you will live forever in the kingdom of Satan, living this kind of happy, joyous, fun-loving life, with women all around, with booze and song and wine and women all the time. And in the same sense, Christians are leading this boring life in the afterlife. Well, where does this immortality come from? If you read the doctrines of these high-level people, and some who've come out and told you, they gain, and you ask, why are children being treated this way? Why are they being abused? Why are they being, in some senses, used as sacrifices? Why are they being killed? Why is the blood of children being spilled in this country more than you've ever seen? Well, I think it relates to some of the people that have come out from these high-level positions of Luciferianism, the Grand Masters, so to speak, the ones that get to the top of the capstone that you see on the dollar bill, and that is a whole thing in itself, how they define those 13 levels. And when you get to almost to the top level, you report to a group of 9, supposedly, according to people who have come out of this. And then the top one is a group of 7, and the final power is Lucifer, who sits on that capstone with that all-seeing eye. And the reason that eye is there is so the capstone never comes down, because Christ in the Bible had warned that the capstone will be put down and you will be crushed. So Lucifer puts his eye there to keep the capstone from coming down, but we know in the end that's not going to happen. So you have this level, even on our dollar bill, you see the 13 levels, and at the bottom you will see Novus Ordo Secundum, which is the New World Order. So this thing has been talked about for a couple hundred years. It's nothing new. And they knew about it. They created it. And when you look into the esoteric side of this, trying to understand the evil side of this, you will see that at the bottom of that is the Freemasonic order working its way through to the top. Now, many people never get to that level, of course. Some get to that, and there's so many different stages of Illuminism and this whole idea of bringing order out of chaos. Chaos then, as I believe it was Pike and his predecessor Adam Weishaupt came up with an interesting 5-point theory of starting with chaos and working your way back to the same position where they become powerful then. And I'm not going to go through each one of those. But when you talk, when you listen to people who have been at some of the highest levels of Satanism, grand priests, grand priestesses of the Order of the Druids and all these different things, and then you look at their connections to Masonic lodges, and some of them, even in these Masonic lodges, even high-degree Masons don't even know there's a second order where they can get up to the 90th to 100th degree, how many ever degrees they have. And basically what this is doing is summoning the powers of Satan. And, well, what I'm getting at is that when you listen to some of their testimonies, you will see that when you get to these top levels, you are promised immortality. Now, how do you get this immortality? Well, one of the ways that they teach this, and it's something I just want to warn you, it gets fairly graphic, and it's very sick, but we need to discuss it. They feel that they will gain their immortality by taking the innocence of children away, by drinking or spilling the blood of children, by gaining that youth through the ones they sacrifice. And Satan doesn't, if you think about it, doesn't Lucifer love to steal the innocence of children? He just cannot stand that. And so when you see that these child sacrifices that have been witnessed in the Mormon temples, when you see them witnessed and talked about in the dark dungeons of the Vatican during their black masses, when you see these pedophilia rings spilling the blood of children, when you see the worshiping of these, where they put children on the altar and just cut them with a golden knife, and the blood spills, they are these high-level Satanists. And this is from testimony of several who have come out of these high levels. This immortality is then promised to you through the spilling of children's blood and through the suffering of children and the taking away of their innocence. So that's why I believe, if you put these two things together, you're seeing what's going on at the Alamo ministry, you're seeing what's going on in the DHS services, how they're ripping children away, taking and stealing their innocence. And it stems, I believe, if you listen to the testimonies of high-level people who get to this grand secret, the secret of Satanism, the secret unhidden, the immortality that they will receive. It's amazing. Now, the other day, a long time ago, somebody sent me a movie. It was with